Welcome to another cast by Gwyn and Rohans. That is GR StarCraft here, casting another game for Team LZuruha. This is LzHuruha's Fantasy versus Complexity Ryan. We're going to have a little bit of Terran versus Protoss action here on Shakira's Plateau. Rohans, take us away with this matchup.
Yeah, across positions, Shakuris, the new and updated, in my opinion, better version of this map. For those of you that don't know, the rocks used to be on the sides of your base, just off to the left and rights if you're on the top. And now they're actually moved just over here, and that's an access way to another base. But they're going to be cross positions. This is a map where we like to see, or we tend to see, I should say, quite a bit of fast expanding from both of these races.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, as Rohans just mentioned, this ramp up to the natural expansion with the natural tucked in, and this ramp from your main pointing back toward your natural expansion makes it very easily defensible. Just put some cannons, or just a defensive wall off on the high ground, a few bunkers if you are Terran, and you are a-okay to expand right behind that. We see a lot of one gate or one racks expand builds on this map. Very safe to do. You can hold, usually with just Marines, don't need to do that Marauder expand. And I've even seen a lot of Protoss favoring Nexus first against Terran on this map. Not what we're going to be seeing out of Ryan today, but definitely a popular build.
Yeah, it is a bigger map, but it's not super big. It's not Tal'Darim ultra big, and that definitely is some risky play, although I have seen it done at the highest of levels. But so far, both our players looking pretty normal. Fantasy actually has not taken a refinery yet, so we could be seeing one base expand from him. However, Protoss does have an assimilator down, and I would imagine him to be throwing a cyber core down as soon as this gateway completes and starts stalker production.
Certainly. I mean, that, wouldn't be surprised if we see a stalker come out to chase out that scouting SCV before he reveals what he's doing. As we can see, he's still pretty low on minerals. That is Ryan, starting to stockpile a little bit of gas, getting a zealot started. Stalker going to start shortly after that, but look at Fantasy up here floating almost 400 or 300 minerals. Well, I bet we're going to be seeing that command center go down as soon as possible.
Yeah, I definitely think we are. He might have done it already, but I guess he doesn't have the minerals yet. He must have bought another SCV. But yeah, he's definitely going to throw it out there, SCV going down. He's actually going to do it on the low ground, and this is pretty risky. One barracks only on the ground, just pumping out a couple Marines. But if the timing's right and he gets a bunker down, he should be able to hold any pressure coming from Protoss with SCVs repairing. Complexity Ryan, meanwhile, back in his base, is chrono boosting out his first stalker. There is a Zealot chasing that SCV out. So,
yeah, the SCV, having stole some minerals, gonna return home with his prize. And I don't think he's going to be greeted too greatly because he's only bringing back 5 minerals. But we do see an expansion going down from Ryan as well. So we've just seen, a 1 gate expand out of Ryan. Not even opting for the 1 gate robo expand, a little bit safer because you can get that observer out. But just a 1 gate expand to match that 1 racks expand. Out of Fantasy. Fantasy's already got a bunker on the low ground, probably going to be throwing down a second bunker. So we do see a Stalker and a Zealot poaching up here. Gonna see the bunker turn around though. Does not want to take any hull damage on that Stalker.
Yeah, denied, and he's actually trying to pick off this SCV unsuccessfully. So these two units are just kind of out there, and, maybe letting him think that there's some pressure coming while he safely gets his expansion up. Excuse me. Both players actually throwing down 2 additional racks and 2 additional gateways. 3 additional, actually, I take that back. They're both adding 3 additional gates and racks. So
we're up actually to 5 gateways in Ryan's base, and looks like a 6th going down. So we might see some 6 gate aggression here. Not particularly the style that we see a lot out of in this matchup. Usually we see that kind of build in a Surge matchup, but let's see if Fantasy sees that. No, he sees 5 but not 6 of the gates. So that 6th one, a little bit of a mystery to him. We already have a forward probe, gonna lay down that forward pylon. And if we jump back to the everyone cam, just 4 barracks out of Fantasy. So I'm not sure, and just now taking his gas. So Marauders, Stim, Concussive Shell, Combat Shield, all those essential upgrades going to be a long way away.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. Just now getting the refineries, so those are a long ways away, as you just mentioned. I thought he may have been going for like this 4-axe sick timing push that Terran can do with just a handful and then some of Marines. That it's actually really scary if Protoss doesn't have the right composition to deal with it, which is sentry heavy, which Ryan does have. A couple Marines are poking out. They see this pylon. I don't know if they're going to be able to get it. Protoss is actually moving towards those Marines. They may be sitting ducks here. They are retreating.
They certainly are pulling back to the safety of those bunkers, and a third bunker going down. This is a wise move. 2 force fields going down, almost pinching off those Marines, but a little bit of a missed force field definitely there. You know,
Yeah,
wasted 2 energies worth there.
Yeah, for no kills, we might add to that. But the good news for him is he does have quite a bit of sentries, so warping in more Zealots now, and Fantasy definitely knows when you see 5, it really doesn't matter if it's 6 or 5 that you see. You know that it's heavy gateway and it's coming. So, and here he's pushing forward again. Well, maybe not. Now, Fantasy actually does have a command center going down.
Looks like we do see a push at the front, though. Zealots coming in, but that back bunker doing so much damage. The first bunker falls. SCV's being pulled. Gonna repair that bunker. Force fields going down, but too many units lost for Ryan. Gonna have to pull back with that Sentry Stalker force. Has lost all the Zealots, the units that tank. And as you mentioned before, there is a command center going down up at the top here. Kind of a little bit of a hidden expo. You know, hopefully for Fantasy, Ryan does not find this. If he gets away with it, this could be huge.
Yeah, Ryan pushing in again. Stalker's in the front, not a good idea. He needs to get those Zealots in front to take the hits. And I just want to point out the Fantasy's bunker placement. It's a triangle, and it's really smart because if you put all 3 next to each other, the Zealots have such an easy time going from one to the next. When you have them spread out like this, the Zealots have to move, and that's a lot of damage the one in the back, as you mentioned, was doing. And I really like this placement up at the 11 o'clock position because naturally what Protoss is doing is controlling the map right now. He has map control, so if he assumes that he's going to try to take a third, he's going to look straight below at your typical third right here, right by the Zelnaga, where he's going to look at the first natural of the 11 o'clock position base. So that's actually really smart, and he's actually going orbital with it, which is another smart move, because if he does see it, he can just lift it off, float it to a corner, possibly counterattack, and then float it back when it's safe to land. And he's getting extra income from the mules that's going to provide.
Certainly, and now that we're established on 2 bases for both players, you know, obviously both of them taking a third. Oh, money scan there, seeing the third from Ryan by Fantasy. We're starting to see the tech paths. We see a Ghost Academy out for Fantasy, and we see Templar Archives and Templar being warped in for Ryan. So it looks like we are going to see a Ghost versus Templar. You know, both of them inadvertently kind of countering the other one. You know, of course, the counter to Ghosts is, you know, to get Templar for that feedback, and the counter, of course, to Templar is to get Ghosts for the EMP. So I'm really curious to see. It all comes down to good unit control and good micro, and it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out for both players.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The player that usually scouts where the other one's units that you just mentioned are usually tends to win the battles. So observers, scans obviously play a big part of that. Intel of where those units are, because you want to know where they are at all times. You want to be able to counter them with your units that you just mentioned. So the third is complete for Ryan. He's transferring probes, and he can do that because he has map control. He's got Zelnaga controlled, so he knows what's going on. He still does not know about this hidden third up here, and that can be the kind of thing that really messes with the player when, you know, you think you have a guy sitting on 2 bases and you think you're ahead all of a sudden, and then little do you know this huge ball that's coming out just like he is right now, and you find that you really weren't that far ahead. So looking at the unit, the supply count, Fantasy definitely in a nice little lead right now.
Yeah, he certainly is, but I mean, I would not underestimate the power of these Templar with Storm. Can do so much damage to a bio-based army like this, and we do not even see medevacs on the field at all. You know, if we look back in Fantasy's base, his starport, you know, he has a starport, but it is sitting idle. We see no medevacs out, and without medevacs, a marine-based army without combat shield gonna die so quickly.
Yeah, he really needs to get a couple of those out, and he needs to get, excuse me, combat shield up. Couldn't agree more. That's such a big deal. I would expect to see him start to transition a little bit more into Marauders here, and kind of stop producing Marines. We'll have to see how that plays out, but do have a fact